We're opening up. Okay. Hello, everyone. You're welcome to open up your video. This will be an interactive presentation. Also, Carol will take a pause and answer any questions you may have. And you are welcome to raise your hand. Make sure you do raise your hand or type a question in the chat room. And give us some patience. Give us some patience while we work out the responses. One interpreter will be signing, one interpreter will be voicing during this presentation. So if you could give us some time to make sure we have people on the on camera when they're asking their question. And welcome to the library lunch learning services for the deaf and hard of hearing. My name is Daniel. This is my sign name, DM off of the cheek. I'm a white male with dark hair, very short hair, black frame glasses, and a black shirt. I have a black background behind me, and the speaker here is Carol Padden. She is very well known in the deaf community. She has been teaching about deaf culture. She has several books, an ABC, a basic course in American Sign Language. She has written many books about deafness and has given lectures all over the world. So now for today's topic, sign languages around the world. And Carol will be presenting, and I'm going to let her take over now. Carol, the stage is yours.
Great, thank you. Hello, everybody. Hello. First, I want to say thank you to Daniel for inviting me to present. I always enjoy going and speaking with different groups of people. I'm happy that we can do this virtually, so I'm technically with you in Nashville today. So I want to know who we are, who I see people are starting to join. So first, let me say, let me check with everybody. Can you see me? Am I clear for everyone who's visually, can I see some nods? Yes, a little bit. Am I a little dark? Am I a little dark? Let me see what I can do. I'm not usually dark in this office. One second. Now you're seeing this. Oh, that might be better if I sit over here. Let me try that. I'm gonna switch my seat. Is that better? I think the lighting on that.
Yes, that is better. Thank you.
Okay, but I'm gonna get another chair because this chair's a little busy. Much better, huh? Yes, I
Yes, thank
agree.
you.
Now that I see how well lit I am, it is much better. Okay, I'm here in San Diego, California. And the temperature today is 73 degrees, I have to tell you. It's beautiful. You can see I get a lot of sunshine here in my office. Okay, so first, now I want to check everyone sees me clearly. Everybody can see me. Is there anyone who needs the interpreter? I'm signing. What are we talking about? She's voicing. That's right. So you should be hearing the voice interpreter, everyone. I like to introduce my interpreters. They work with me regularly. The voice you're hearing is JoJo Sullivan. And my other interpreter, who's also will be signing. So if anyone wants to interact and needs the use of an interpreter and needs to speak in spoken English, Mary Kane will be interpreting. They are both CODAs. Their parents are deaf and they have worked with me regularly here at the University of California, San Diego. I like to introduce myself by starting, first of all, by telling you I was born in Washington, D.C. My parents both taught at Gallaudet. My parents both graduated from Gallaudet and then became professors there. My oldest brother also graduated from Gallaudet. His wife graduated from Gallaudet. My husband graduated from Gallaudet. My brother's daughters, both of my nieces, graduated from Gallaudet. I'm the only one who didn't graduate from Gallaudet. I went to Georgetown University. And then after Georgetown, I came to grad school here at UC San Diego. And I have been here at UC San Diego since grad school. I got a job as a professor, and I'm currently in my position as the dean of the School of Social Sciences here at UC San Diego. And I've been in this role for 11 years. And I really enjoy getting out and meeting people outside of the university. So let me, I'm going to give a little bit of a presentation and then I'm going to ask a question. If you want to interact, please use everyone knows how to use the raise hand button here on the bottom of your Zoom. Do you see what I just put on my screen? So everyone knows, you all know how to find that if you need it. Okay. So I'm watching for that. So if you have a question, if there's something that I've said that maybe isn't clear, or you felt like you missed something that you want me to repeat, feel free to click that raise hand icon and maybe I might have a question for you too at some point that I want you to respond. I feel like you're in class with me today. You are in class with the professor. You're at a university class with me. So I like to be interactive. I like to ask and see what you already know, okay? All right. So I'm going to start with, let's see. So some of you might have read a book that me and my husband wrote. It's called Deaf in America. And there's a story in that book about my father, where I am explaining at this time when I was beginning to work and I was starting to really research sign language. I was an undergrad at Georgetown studying linguistics and sign languages. So I told my father I'm studying ASL, American Sign Language. And my father said, "Why? Why? It already has a name. We have ASL. Why do we need to study it? Why do we need to have some official name for it? We sign to each other. We communicate with each other. We have to make it some fancy American Sign Language, whatever we put a label on it. It's just sign. It's what we do." And that was at that time how my dad's understanding of sign language, but we were starting to realize that it wasn't just a sign language, that we had sign language in America that was different than the sign language they used in Japan or the sign language they used in Britain or in Brazil or really all these countries throughout the world. There wasn't just one global sign language. We had to label these things. We had to identify and categorize, have names for this language that we're using. Who are the users of this language? What is this language? And I don't think my dad really had that framework and really didn't think of sign language in a global way, but thought of it instead in this local user community. And maybe, other things were going out in other places, but this where I am and with the deaf people I interact with, this is the language we use. And so now here we are, how many years later, excuse me, since I've had that conversation with my father and the world of research has opened up for sign language. So, okay, I don't know who wants to volunteer. Can I ask for 3 volunteers? So can I give 3 people raise your hand? So let me see. 3 people. I need 3 volunteers. Okay, I got one. Thank you. I need 2 more. I need 2 more volunteers. Anyone want to raise their hand? Come on. Come on, raise your hand, volunteer. Ariana, yeah, you are you trying to find it? Yeah, you can. Yeah, go ahead. Use the little icon. Yeah, then we'll see. Okay, so we need a third volunteer. One more? Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to start with the first hand raise I saw was Jenny. Okay, Jenny, how many sign languages do you think there are in the world?
I think over 300.
Over 300. Okay. And then where was my second person? Could you put your hand back up because I can't see you if your hand's not up. Or I think it was Ariana. Yeah. How many sign languages do you think are in the world?
I don't see Ariana, so I don't know where she is.
Oh,
Oh,
she doesn't put her hand up. Oh, there. Oh, but I see 1,000. Oh,
it
okay. You said 1,000? Okay, that's fine.
yeah,
Okay, and then I saw the third person, the third hand up
was Imani.
was, there he is.
Hello, right here, Imani.
Okay, there you go. I see you. Okay, Amani, how many do you think? How many sign languages do you think globally in the world? So we have so far we have 300. I think we
I
started with
would
300,
I
and
would
then we
say
have a
about
thousand,
I would say about 1,000, 1,500.
1,500. Okay, 1,500. Those are our three guesses. So Amani is the closest to the accurate number, I would say. We have a database that it's actually public that you can go to. I will put it in the chat. Let me see. Let me find my chat so then I can share it with everyone. So you can actually go to this public database, and this is a record of languages, all languages, spoken and sign languages in the world. So people are doing research and putting languages and entering them into the database. So we have an archive, and every time you go, you see that the number grows. And last time I looked, it was about 1,300 sign languages. So Jenny, why did you think when you said, I think you said 300 or 500, what made you say that when you made your first guess? Okay, that's something you
I
had
put
heard before? Okay. And we don't necessarily think we have the most 100% accurate. We think actually that the number is low. And where do we find sign languages? Everywhere. Even in Greenland. There's sign language everywhere there are people. Madagascar,
no, wait.
Mozambique, Japan, Korea, small islands like Fiji, Vanuatu, all the way down to the Southern Hemisphere, South America, North America, South Africa. There are just so many sign languages. Some of them haven't even been able to be reported or documented for Galato.org. So it's amazing. And that tells us that deaf people are everywhere. Now, how many signers of ASL? So ASL is considered a global sign language, lingua franca. A lot of people use and know ASL globally. So, if you could guess how many users of ASL, but we're not including Canada, just in the US, primary users of ASL, if someone has done the research and the survey to find out, it's actually through a health survey to figure out the statistics and the numbers. So there are about 1 million primary users of ASL. We're not counting people who learn ASL as a second language or learn it for professional reasons, but for people who use it as their primary means of communication. If we were to add in Canada, that number would probably double. And if we added some of the countries in Africa where we see that there is ASL used in schools and is the language taught in schools, we probably are talking about several million people globally who use ASL primarily. Is ASL the largest language used in the world? Maybe not. Some people argue maybe Chinese or Indian sign languages might be more commonly used, but ASL is the most visible. We see it with interpreters, we see it with deaf people who present academically. It's just what we call a world language, similar to English, where countries English is not their official language learn it. If you go to Gallaudet University, you see all of the users of ASL and the people who've come from other countries to learn ASL as a second language. We know that the number is grows and grows and grows when we start to include all of those users of ASL. Now, most people who study, such as me, who work with sign languages, study big sign languages like ASL, very commonly used languages. But of those 1,300 sign languages that have been documented, of those, there are, of course, others that have not been documented, but of those that have been researched and documented, most are small languages. And what do I mean when I say small languages? That means the users, the population of signers of that language is small. So it might even be as small as one family unit using that language. 10 or 15 people using that communication mode. Or maybe it is a village sign where you have a community of people, but it's maybe 100 or 200 people who live in that community, or say even 500, which is, a pretty big village for a village. And then you might also maybe be talking about a language where maybe it's just a certain part of a community and that, or maybe the people who use that sign language maybe might go to a community and there might be more users. I grew up using ASL. It is the language of my home, of my family. It's my native language until I was maybe in my 30s and my 40s. I encountered somebody who invited me to go to visit a village to observe village sign language as a research project. So I went to an Arab community, a village, and there were four in the 30s. There were four deaf brothers that were born to the family. So they started a family sign that was used in the village. And as the family grew and the community grew to have a village of 6,000 people, there were 300 or so deaf people that were living in the village out of 6,000. Again, that's an approximate. We didn't have an exact count. But of those 300 deaf community members, they would usually have brothers or sisters, siblings who would be very fluent in sign language. So that would make about, 600 users. And then you go out into the family unit to cousins and other villagers who were signers, but maybe not fluent. So you would see probably about 1,000 users of sign in the village. And so I went and studied how that evolved and how it grew and how the language was developed throughout the course of 20 years. I'm not able to go back as often, but that was previously a project in a field of research, and I learned a lot from that village and that research. So let me ask, does anybody here know more than one sign language? Raise your hand. Does anyone know another sign language? No? Nobody knows more than one? Just curious. Okay. Okay. Oh, I do. Wait, I see you do? What sign languages do you know? Oh, wow, you know four. Okay. Tell us what you know. German, German sign language, Turkish sign language, Arabic. Which country? Do you know Arabic? Do you know which
He said,
is that Jordan?
no,
Can you spell it for me? Oh, okay, Germany, Turkish, and did you say Arabic? Arabic? And then ASL, I'm guessing. Oh, and
international.
you know, just, do you know the international sign as well? Okay. I see oh, Japanese sign language. Amani said very small amount. Okay, well, good. That's a nice mix of people. Nice mix of people. I thought I saw a hand. Hold on, first of all, I need to take my hand down. Okay. So I learned the village sign language in the course of my research with the community, and I obviously know ASL. And so I know a language that has millions of signers, and I know a village sign language that when I started learning it had 200 people who used it. So from probably the largest signing community with ASL to one of the smallest with the village language. Did I see any differences? I will explain that, but first, edgy. I don't know how to say it. Sorry.
There you go.
Where was the village? Yeah. What country? I'm just curious. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the question for everyone. So the village that I was visiting, it's an Arab village that's in Israel, in the southern part of Israel, in the desert, in the Nev Desert, and it's a Bedouin community in that area. Yes, yes, that's the sign, right? So what's the difference between the largest sign language and the smallest sign language? Well, I can tell you a few of the differences that were observed. First, finger spelling. In that small village sign language, there wasn't any formal schooling, so there was no finger spelling. ASL, of course, we have finger spelling. It's very common and we use it very often. So was a major difference. Secondly, names of people. Here, as American Sign Language users, I have a sign name, which is a C that shakes. My brother's name is a B on the chin. I have a niece who's a K that shakes. Excuse me. So we all have name signs. With the village sign community, but really often what it was you would just point to where the person lived. So the person's sign name was pointing to where they lived in relation to where you were in the conversation. Or sometimes you would give a brief description and then point. Because again, the village at that point when I was there was 2,000 people. It was very, very small. It wasn't so small though that you knew where everyone lived. So you would use this sign, which is like covering your ear, and then point. So that was a way of saying a deaf person lives over there, or a deaf person lives this direction. The that was how you would refer to people. So no finger spelling, no what we call geospatial. So their signs were all pointing in direction, but they were real world directions. They weren't abstract locus. This was actually pointing to where the person lived in the village. In ASL, we do refer to things in the real world. So, I would say my home is up here, this direction, it's north. Or I might say JoJo's house is more north than my house. So I would use that as real world and I would point in that direction. But often in ASL, we create abstract loci. So if we are saying San Diego and I want to compare San Diego to Nashville, I can point back and forth, but I don't have to think about where is Nashville in relation to where I'm sitting right now. I just know Nashville's out there. I know I have to put Nashville somewhere out there, but I don't have to figure out exactly where Nashville is in relation to where I'm sitting right now. I can establish San Diego on one side of where I'm communicating my comparison, like, and San Diego's over here, it's more sunny, and then Nashville over here is more, and then so but this is not in relation, it's abstract. It's not in relation to where these things really are. But in the village sign, when we're referring to a person or a location, it was strongly rooted in real geospatial context. So that was something that was I had to learn. Their rhythm, the prosody with which well, let me back up a little bit before I get to that. They would have one sign that could refer and mean several different things. For example, putting your hand over your forehead meant woman, but it also meant wife and mother, which in ASL, we have three distinct signs for woman, wife, and mother. So there's a word for that in linguistics. It's called polysemy, which is a multiple meaning associated with one unit. So the twist on the upper lip could mean man, male, father, or husband. So pointing and then the male signals whether it's my husband, it's my father, it is my brother, but everybody knows who in this village this individual's brother or father or husband is. So it works in these small settings. But as your sign language community and the population of users becomes bigger and bigger, you can no longer assume these reference. Because if there's too many people, you don't know where people live and you don't know who people are married to. So it's interesting what you can do in these small populations. Let me take a pause and see if anyone has any questions for what I shared so far.
I have to look for the person.
And you can use your raise hand icon if you have any questions or comments. Okay, any questions? I must be clear. Anything, any interaction, yeah, I see somebody. Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
Just for clarification, I, she's really tiny. Just like,
One sec. Oh, there we go.
Great. Just for clarification, there are 1 million signers, and is that only in the United States, in America? Oh, you can't see me? Is that only in the United States?
One second. Okay, sorry. Now go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, great. Oh, I just want some clarification. You said there were 1 million signers in America, and is that only in America? Is that what?
Right. That's just, yeah. And I mean, that includes Alaska and Hawaii, but that doesn't include Canada or other users of ASL. So it's 1 million primary users of ASL. Again, I want to say prime. That means someone who uses everything. So not somebody who's learned it as a second language and uses it. But I would include codas. I'd imagine it would include codas as a primary language, but 1 million primary users of ASL. And I think if you included Canada, it would be double.
Maybe.
I would guess up to 2 million. So I think that there are definitely more ASL users than we have people who speak French in the US, if you compare it
Right,
that way. Yeah.
great. Thank you. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, we're one of the major languages of the United States is ASL. Yeah. Okay, any more questions? If not, I'll just keep going along. Oh, go ahead. Now I see Imani. I hope I'm saying that right.
What is the difference? Oh, all right. Can you start over again?
The
Polygamy versus similar. Similar.
Simile. Yeah.
Similar. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. 1 second. I have to adjust how I see everybody on the screen so I can answer. Give me 1 second. There we go. So polysemy is a term in linguistics, which means that a word, a unit, whether it's a word or a sign, it's only one word or sign, but it has multiple meanings. A simile is when you're connecting a word to another word, and that becomes something that is similar. So like soft like a lamb. So you're looking at this characteristic of softness as it applies, as a lamb has it, or wise as an owl, right? So you're saying that owl, you're connecting a meaning to owl of wise, but this one sign This one sign, you have to, when you use it and you point, you have to know because it can mean three different things, that same sign. So the point or the context gives the meaning of mother versus wife. But it's the same exact sign, only the context or the referent or something that's added, like maybe the individual is very old and uses that sign and you're guessing, well, it's not going to be that person's mom. The mom is probably too old to still be alive. So you use that inference, but you're using context to understand the meaning because the word or the sign itself is polysemous. So similes uh isn't a multiple meaning. Wise as an owl means you're referring to the owl, but you're using that context, but you're referring specifically to owls and that not just any bird, right? So simile gives you a sense of being able to compare or to add a richness of something has that quality to the object. Okay? Just a little linguistics lesson. That was nice.
Beth has a question in the chat if you want to check that out.
Let's see.
Oh, oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. We have to come back to. Okay, so now I have a better, I think I can see everybody multiple. Okay. So we have, when we're talking about different types of sign, different ways we categorize sign, when we talk about family sign, then we're talking about a very small number of signers. Really, we're down to the family unit that uses the sign. Often family signs occur when you have one deaf person in a family, whether it be maybe the wife and children are hearing, but there's one member of the family who's deaf, and everyone in the family interacts with that deaf family member. Wait 1 minute. Okay, so often the signs that are used and understood are just for that family. But now, if the family, for example, has deaf siblings and there are two family units, and it becomes a bit of an extended family unit. But again, you're talking about a small community of signers, sometimes as few as three, 2 or 3 deaf individuals to 5, 10, 15 family members in the unit who will be using that family sign. There are many, many, many family sign languages throughout the world. One family sign language was studied by a colleague here at UC San Diego. His name is John Haviland. I want to type his name if you're curious about his research about family signs. And then I do see Beth's question now that I see the chat, so I can answer it. And Beth, I'm going to answer your question in just a second. Let me finish sharing about John Haviland's research. So he is actually an anthropologist who works in Mexico, speaks a lot of different native languages in Mexico, and saw a group of deaf people signing, 2 deaf brothers. And there was actually a group of 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister, and everybody in the family was signing, the mom, the dad, the siblings, and the children. But he was there as an anthropologist working with spoken languages. It's just something he observed. But then he came to a talk that I gave and he met me and he decided, wait a minute, I want to learn more about the family of signers. And so he's published some papers. It's been very interesting. And that family, like I said, happened to have 3 deaf children. And the daughter also had a child who was a coda and signed. But the 2 older brothers didn't have children. They didn't get married. So the family, once they were older, the sign language will disappear. because there are not any more deaf members or deaf users being added to that family of signers. But we can imagine that this scenario exists all throughout the world with families. He just happened to observe this family while on a anthropology research project and was able to observe and document it on Glotto. But how many scenarios or situations do we see where people are using sign language like that throughout the world? So I think Beth, where's Beth? I don't see. I like to look at the person when I'm answering the question. Beth, there you are. Okay, I see you now. So Beth, hi. So you're asking how many people use sign language all over the world? Oof, we have no idea. How could we count? I think the World Federation of the Deaf has a number, WFD, has a statistic. And, I'm trying to remember the last time they might have something on their website that is the most up-to-date number. But I think that there are so many deaf people that are maybe unaccounted for in Africa, in South America, in China, in Japan, in countries, Northern Europe, all throughout I think even in America, throughout the world. I wish I had remembered their number. I'll have to look that up. But someone here, you guys are good. You're good at Googling. Somebody look the World Federation of the Deaf.org and tell me what they say, what the most current statistic is. Somebody out there, if you can help me out, look at their website, tell me, oh, there we go. Thank you. Look at that. Thank you, P.F. Anderson. 70 million, it says. Hmm. So now my next question. Why are there so many signers? Why are there 70 million people who use sign language? Why? Why do we have so many signers? I guess I should be asking why do we have 70 million deaf people in the world? Okay, Jenny. Jenny, what do you think? Why do we hold on, let's
Yeah.
let you so everyone can see you. Whoever's been doing the spotlighting, I think there's somebody who can do it for me. There we go.
70, huh? There
Yeah,
was,
wait 1 second. I have to make my screen so I can see you. Sorry, Jenny. I have to.
okay.
I know. Give me 1 second. Okay, go ahead. I can see you now.
What you said, your question is, why are there so many signs?
Signers. And really, so really the question is, why do we have
Signs?
this many deaf people? Why do we have that many deaf people?
Access. They need access to information.
Right. Sign is obviously visual,
It's
something deaf
visual,
people can
right?
acquire. And obviously we see there's a large
There's a
number of
need for it.
users.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a need for it. Mhm.
Exactly. That's the preferred. So that all makes sense. That all makes sense. But why do we have 70 million deaf people? Why do we have deaf people?
I don't know.
Do you have a guess? Why do we have 7 million deaf people?
There are too many, with problems with our health that may have caused a deafness.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Oh, I'm seeing some answers in the chat. I see somebody saying genetics. I see
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
saying genetics.
genetics, yep, that too.
Just looking at some of the chats. Yeah, 400. So somebody said they saw a statistic of 430 million, with different hearing loss, hard of hearing, deaf. So 430 million deaf people throughout the world. So that's somebody said a percentage of population. So if it's 430 million deaf people of the world, what's the percentage of the population? How many people are deaf? I'm looking at the chat.
Oh, I don't know.
Who's doing, someone did the math? I think somebody, so let me go back now. We're talking about the numbers but look at the original. I see genetics. What Jenny mentioned, health. I'm just looking at the chat, seeing other people are thinking. Okay. Sorry, I had to make sure the spotlight was removed so I can go back to my side. I'm moving my screen around. Okay. So why do we have so many signers? Why do we have so many signers? Because we have a lot of deaf people. We have that many deaf people. So then the question is, well, why do we have deaf people? Why do we have all these deaf people? So the first answer is genetics. Yeah. Genetics and viruses are the two major causes. Being deaf is involved in a lot of different parts of the physical anatomy. It's not just as people think, oh, just the cochlea or just the ear, but there's a lot of parts that go into the ability to hear. And if something is affected, it is easily impacted and leads to deafness. So, really, physiologically, we probably have had deaf people as far back as we think we had people. We don't know when our first deaf person appeared. We don't have a record of that. Or the first time sign language was used. We don't have a record of that. When do we think? We don't know. We don't know. If we were able to use genetics and viral research, looking more at in depth, which is currently what's being done in research, to try and really historically go back and see and if it can tell us if there is a specific gene that caused deafness. There is one that's very common in the world that people are aware of. It's connection 26 is a gene that's been identified. It causes deafness, and we see that very commonly in the population. People call it C, connexin, so C-26, a specific gene that you can identify that causes deafness. And people have found that C26 existed 30,000 years ago, which we can assume means that we had deaf people 30,000 years ago and possibly even before that. And I don't think anyone stopped to think about that. How old do we think American Sign Language is? Do we know what year American Sign Language really emerges as a language? Do we know? Historically, ASL? You know, a lot of people say when the first deaf school was established, that was in, the 18, thank you to Ariane, who said yes, with the first deaf school. But there was a Martha's Vineyard in New England. We had New Hampshire, Pennsylvania. There's some research that shows there was signing populations in Virginia. The more that people are researching, they're finding that there was signing villages before schools for the deaf were established, possibly in as far back as the 1700s. And those people were from England. And obviously they were from villages in England as well, where they lived. So sign language and signing communities really have a long history. And people are realizing more and more that it's not just American Sign Language or German sign languages or these large signing communities, but that really there's over 1,300 different sign languages that have been used. And now there's even more that are being discovered. So we're really seeing and discovering that sign language is everywhere. It's not so strange. Okay, so I'm gonna stop. This timing is perfect. And then I'll open up for questions. But I just want to go back to the story that I started with my dad saying, why do we have to call it ASL? Why not? It's just sign. We sign. Why call it ASL? And it's because every language has such different characteristics and vocabulary and ways they refer to things, the way they describe things, the context of a language, all of these things when we realize that it's not just sign language, but it's in fact 1,300 different types of sign language throughout the world, and probably even more than that. So it's really an interesting field that I chose to study. So I'm glad that you were all here to join, and it was great to meet everybody. And I'm glad you're all interested in sign language, and I'll stop. And then Daniel, I think we
Sure,
can be
that's
open for
fine.
questions.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, let me,
Daniel said he's going to stop recording. Um, yeah, he's going to spotlight Diane
mhm.
so we can see her. Okay, great. Thank you. Hi. Thank you today for today's meeting. It was really great. It was very eye-opening. Really enjoyed it. Thank you. How do you respond when someone asks you about why do we have ASL and other sign languages? Why not just have one sign language around the world? Because my response to that is, well, there are so many different spoken languages, right? Why not have many different sign languages? But a lot of hearing people don't get that.
Yeah, yeah. I find the same experience. I meet PhD academics who are amazed by that there's more than one sign language. I think people think of sign as just elevated gesture. They have that mindset. And gestures appear to human beings, or excuse me, to hearing people as universal. So they think that if it's just an elevated gesture system, it must be universal. And I have to explain that no, no, no. I do not understand other sign languages. We do have a universal way of using a mode of communication for just international sign. I think that's a different topic when we get deaf people together and use that language. But I think I think because it's a visual language, that's what hearing people just think, well, it must be easy and universal for everybody to see the same thing. So often I show a video of a plane taking off. So, of course, we see a lot current in the current war, and we see uh, planes taking off from battleships. And so you see the soldiers there, or the air traffic controllers, right, doing the gestures and telling people to let the planes take off. And I think hearing people see that and think, well, they're gesturing, they're communicating. So, and that seems universal and completely able to understand. So that must be how sign language operates. But they don't understand the complexity of grammar and all of that. They think I see it, so I therefore I can understand it. I can understand gestures. Why can't I understand? So they're not seeing the complexity and the dimensions. So, my answer depends on the person's background. If they're a physicist, then I'm going to explain it pretty academically because they can handle it.
Right,
Maybe if someone sees it as more of artistic, a different framework, I think it depends on people's culture and their background, where they're coming from, how I explain it. But I think it's just because the visualness of the language seems very accessible, but they're not seeing that depth of structure.
great, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions?
Yeah. I can ask a question if nobody else has a question. I gotta find my cursor. Okay, I found it. 1 minute. Okay, I have a question. Small sign languages and then large sign languages, which we talked about today. What do you think would be easier to acquire? A large sign language if you wanted to learn the sign language? Do you think it's easier to learn a small sign language or to learn a large sign language? Who wants to You don't have to know the answer. I mean, I'm not expecting you, so go ahead and What do you think is let's see, I see Daniel, you think a small sign language? Why do you think a small sign language is easier? So when I said my example and I went to the village and I learned sign language and obviously their sign language and I know ASL and I also obviously use ASL every day. I can converse in French Sign Language, so what do you think seems easier? So you think the smaller one seems easier to learn? Why would you think so?
There are comments in the chat.
Oh, the chat. Okay, I'll look at the comments after you. I want the person who was going to answer. Is that oh, Diane, sorry. What, Diane, why do you think small is easier to learn?
Oh, hold on. We have to spotlight her.
There it is. Okay.
All right, thank you. I think the reason I think that is because for myself, my own deaf community is very small and we know everybody and it just seems easy. Oh, the letter R shaking back and forth. We all know who this person is when we sign this. We don't have to finger spell that person's name or describe who the person is. Everyone knows who this person is with this sign name. So I would think it would be similar with village signs as well.
And maybe to be clear, so if you had to go learn if you had to go and learn a small sign language. Let me look at the comments. Oh wow, there's a lot. Hold on. Okay. Interesting. I'm just reading the comments in the
Some
So some
people
of
say,
you said large would be easier to learn, and then some of you said small. So interestingly, the small languages are much harder to learn than large languages. And let me tell you the reason why. In small sign languages, often you have, like I mentioned, a family who will have a sign for cat. So maybe, for instance, they might sign cat with to refer to the whiskers. Another one might be referring to how the cat eats and showing, but then another family might be cat with the whiskers, but with less fingers selected to use the sign. And that variety is okay because when there's three signers, if three signers sign it differently, we still know what we're all referring to because we know how we sign things. But but in ASL, we do we have another sign for cat? We have some variants, but do we really have, Diane? Do we know another sign for cat? No.
cat is just
Right.
this,
Yeah, cat,
or with
cat.
not the fingers up.
But yeah,
The hand shape is
yes.
slightly different.
But in that village, I also refer to even the head eating food, which is completely removed from the visual description of the whiskers. But that type of variety is okay because there's not that many different signers. But as an ASL user, if I go from San Diego to Nashville and I sign this for cat, everyone's going to go, what the heck are you talking about? Nobody uses that sign for cat. So we encounter people because there's so many signers, we have to have a little bit of color, a little bit of variety. But when we sign cow, there's only one sign for cow, right? Are there other signs
Yeah,
for
I guess this is
uncommon
how I would
animals?
sign.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Like, so we might have a little bit of variant where how you produce the sign, but the sign, we can't change
Oh,
it and make it about the ring on the cow's nose, right? That we aren't able to make those
right.
variations in sign. The second thing was the geography, the location that I mentioned. If you don't know the location, then you don't know the sign. If you don't know where someone lives, you don't know where the point is. But Diane, I don't know where you live. Where do you live, Diane?
Right. Red Hook, Red
Red
Hook.
Hook. And is that in
It's
Tennessee?
in New
Oh,
York.
in New York.
New York, yeah.
Where I see like
And
where is New York
upstate
in
New York.
relation? I think I should point that way.
Yeah, it's upstate New York.
I
Oh, okay,
think
yeah.
I think New York's that way, right? But I don't need to know
Right. I don't
where
know
you
from where
are.
you're
Or
sitting.
I see Brad. Hi, Brad. Brad, where? Tell me again, Brad. Brad's in San Diego. Where in San Diego are you, Brad? I forgot. What part of town? Poway. He's in Poway. Okay, so New York's this direction. I think Poway's just right here. So, but if I had to refer to you by knowing where you were, I couldn't do that. I don't know where all of your locations are. So that, in that way, small sign languages are much harder. There is more complexity to what you need to know, the context you need to know. Whereas larger languages are much more standardized. They have a larger community of users. So you said, oh, New York. You just tell me the sign for New York. I know where you are. I don't have to figure out where, especially in America, where you are in relation to me. But when you're in a small village and small population of users, it's much different. Oh, I just realized, I think I'm at the, Daniel, what would you like me to do? We're at the end of our time together.
We have to wrap things up. Maybe one more question.
Okay, one more question. Who wants to ask? It's going to be the last question before we're done. Last question.
Brad? Okay, Brad. Brad, you can have the last question. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay, no, Diane. There we go. Oh, it applied to a discussion that you had about the difference between small languages and large language. Okay, can you see me? Can, hold, hold on, Brad.
Did Diane, I thought Diane wanted to ask a question. I just want to make sure. And then we'll go to Brad. Diane, did you have a question? Okay. Okay, go ahead, Brad.
I wanted to add to the discussion about small languages as opposed to new languages. It's a technical one, but I went to a small village in Peru, and I noticed that there were more iconic signs that seemed to be used attached to, like, as opposed to ASL. I know it was almost like ours, but this village did have a lot of iconic signs, and I was able to understand a little bit more there. So.
So it's interesting that you make that point. So yeah, yeah, because I think there's yes and no to that. So when I started working in this particular small village, to them it was iconic, but to me it didn't seem iconic. I didn't, they had background knowledge that made things seem iconic. So, for example, the woman was explaining about her wedding, and she was describing that she got into the car with her mother and her family, and they drove to the wedding. And so I'm following, I feel like I'm following what she's saying, getting into the car and all that. And then she did this sign like this. And I thought, oh, is that a, did somebody stand up on the car? She kind of, she did these signs that seemed iconic, but I'm thinking, are you describing someone's on top of the car? At this point, I'm completely lost. And then I realized that their cultural customs is that they put a doll, they do tie a doll to the roof of the car. It was a doll that's there. I could not pick up on the fact that she was describing a doll on the car. And to them, it was very iconic, but I was thinking it was iconic of an actual person, not a doll. There wasn't, to me, I didn't get that it was a small doll that was on the car. So iconic, yes, you can see there something, but struggling still to understand without context of culture, scale. If you don't know the language well enough to understand the scale at which and she didn't explain anything about it being small because everybody knows you put the doll in the car, so you don't have to explain that the doll's small. Everyone knows you put a small doll. So that, but me as somebody who didn't have context needed that extra explanation, but everybody else could understand her without that extra detail or information. So again, sometimes a language seems simple or iconic, but because there's not that many users, sometimes the context is assumed. An ASL user would be like, what are you talking about? What is this person on the car? But then in ASL, I would say, my family, what we usually tie a doll, and then we would add some of that information to explain that the doll, and I would not personify the doll in ASL because it's smaller. So again, things can be iconic but not accessible of if you're not a user in those small sign languages. So there's more of there's details that are missing because that don't need to be explained to people who are not outsiders. Yes, exactly. High context. High context versus low context. Exactly. Okay. I will turn it back over to you, Daniel.
Yes, thank you. Brad saying thank you. Back to Daniel. Perfect. That was perfect. Thank you so much, Carol, for coming to this event and giving your presentation. And it was just so interesting. What a great topic. And there were so many good questions and comments. It was such a wonderful interaction. Great. It was so great. Thank you so much for that. Plus, the two interpreters, thank you for your voicing and signing, both of you. And thank you, everyone here who joined and came today to learn more about sign language. We really enjoyed it. All right. So I guess we will go ahead and end this session. We will have another library learning session. I'll send out that information to you soon on social media and Facebook and Instagram. This is the library services for the deaf and hard of hearing in Nashville, Tennessee. All right. Thanks again. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Carol said, I really enjoyed it. Thank you. It was nice meeting everyone. Hope to see you all again out there somewhere.